there's the famous S curve. You guys know the S curve, right? That there's a huge technology hype. It gets
Yeah.
really, really high, and then like it falls and then slowly kind of rises back up. So, right, just NFT just dropped here, or crypto just dropped, right? VR is like starting to come back now. 3D printing is like, it's here, it's on the rise again. 10 years ago, we would have sat here probably on Skype rather than in Zoom. And um, I would have told you that in 2023, you'll each have a 3D printer in your house, not lying around doing nothing, but you'll just order off Amazon, and your product will be 3D printed for you, right? That was the dream. And it exploded in a lot of people's face because the technology did not live up. The machines were, the really good ones were too expensive, and the ones who were cheaper and like desktop printers just, needed a lot of tinkering with. They still do, right? Materials weren't as vast, like you couldn't have any, like now we have a million different types of materials for 3D printing, but they all have specific printers, or specific printers can do more, but they're really expensive, right? Most home printers can basically do, a few variations of plastics or bioplastics or resins. And then that hype kind of just, like, the whole system crashed. The entire industry, in a way, like there's always been one to put in like 3D printing as a commodity, and the other is the industry side, but the entire industry shifted to hardcore industry 4.0. So like now you won't find any factory almost in the United States, for example, that won't have a 3D printer for some form of use in the manufacturing process, not necessarily for the end product, but at least for some sort of prototyping, right? It's integrated into the industry. And that's what you don't understand, that the big 3D printing companies, the biggest ones, are selling to aviation companies and to automotive companies, and to, like, anything you can think of, like this, right? Why do an injection mold of a Boeing plane when you only need 100 of those, right? It's so expensive to create the mold. Let's just like 3D print them with $100,000 printer. So there's that huge shift. And then with the community of the home 3D printers, desktop 3D printers, what happened, and I think I talked about that a little bit, is this really amazing maker ecosystem emerged, like a really strong community of people who love this, and amazing product designers and amazing makers and creators. And it's just like micro ecosystems. It's not a huge market, but you have over 100,000 print shops across the world, so which is small to medium businesses that are providing 3D printing services, selling on e-commerce, doing whatever. And then there are tens of millions of products out there. So any product designer can probably design something, and it could be for 3D printing, and there are specific models that are made for it. So there are amazing marketplaces out there for digital files. It's a really, really amazing world to be a part of. It's a really strong community, but it's kind of like a geek economy, right? QB is exactly that pinpoint where we're saying, okay, there was this hype, it didn't live up. We're now in a place where production price of end consumer products, production prices are low enough, and quality of those products are high enough. I mean, printers became very, very cheap, and quality became way, way better. And finally, like, there was this space of it's cheap enough and it's nice enough to be sold to end consumers. Like, you can finally make something that would be in a high-end design store, and a customer would walk in and it would be beautiful and they would love it. They don't know that it's 3D printed. They don't care that it's 3D printed. You could tell them it's a locally made product, right? You could tell them it is used with this like cool technology. It's a cool selling point, but they don't care. It's just the product is good enough and cheap enough to be sold. And this is our play. Like, we're only in that space. We're saying, okay, we can finally help make that shift using cheaper machines, really, really good high content designs, right? And a distribution network. And that way, these products make sense and they're actually being put out into the world. That's not necessarily the future. I think this is like the near future. And I think QB is a big part of that, but also, the entire community is going in that direction. But we were visiting a Modix, which is it's a large 3D printing, like a 3D printing company that makes large printers. We were visiting them today, and he said something really cool when he talked about the vision. He said, our grandchildren are going to hear the story that we used to walk into a store and say, hey, that's a really cool sneaker, can I have it? And the salesman would say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have your size. Like, that won't happen anymore. So this is the future. This is the vision. The vision is instant mass customization. Everything will be completely fitted into the needs of the consumer, and it will all be integrated in technology. So I think marketplaces will have not only your size, but like your fit. It will be like, it's not only 3D printing, it's just industry 4.0 or smart manufacturing in general, right? So your size will be already onto your phone. When you shop something, it will be tailor fit to your needs, right? You could do customizations like you could never think before. It will be super fast and super efficient and a lot greener because, a lot more, it will be localized. That's where that world is going. And I think that the smaller machines or the smaller creators will have more and more space in this world. It will no longer be these huge centralized distribution centers, and won't only be a distribution center. And if you ask me like what the vision is like, if 10 years ago I told you you'd have a 3D printer in your house and that imploded, I don't think that vision is ever coming true. You will not have a 3D printer in your house unless you like to fiddle with it. But you will have a 3D printer in your block because that's what you need. A 3D printing center, a legit center in your block that will cater to all of your needs. And slowly, more and more and more products will be manufactured this way, just because it makes more sense.
Very, very cool. I will say you touched upon the sustainability angle a little bit, and this one is especially kind of close to my heart. While I was looking up a little bit about 3D printing for asking you some questions, because I know absolutely nothing about it. I read that the material used in 3D printing, the PLA, that's bio-based. Is that right? Are the materials actually better than you would find maybe an equivalent if it was a non-3D printed manufacturing process? And if so, if that is true, I feel like that may have that part of the story. I don't hear about that enough, or at least maybe you can tell me does it get lost, or it's just there and I haven't heard it, and maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. First of all, it's better materials.